Is it possible to create an AI pair programmer as coding language? In this video, I'm looking to hook up a domain-specific language to an Aider application running within a web server. I'm Happy Dave, let's get into it. Now, if you don't know what Aider.AI is, it's essentially an AI pair programmer that you can run either within a terminal or from the command line, and the first video in this series I show how to install and get it running with a basic application. I then moved on to the second video in the series in which I created some presentation software using Reveal.js and scalable vector graphics, and you can find the repo here at Happy Dave. We then took that presentation a step further in the third video using Aider's image to code generation techniques. We were able to generate both data and CSS files based off mocks that we'd created in Canva. Now in this video, I want to take a little application that we developed in the fourth video where we were iterating over dozens of files to create documentation for ID Software's Doom, and that particular documentation came out looking in markdown format, but it's that particular tool that I want to hook up to a programming language so that we can call a web server. So the web server that we created in the fifth video hosts Aider.AI behind a RESTful endpoint, and today what we're going to do is create an AI programmer as coding language to talk to this web server. So for this test case, I thought we'd create a folder called Aider Clue Playground. I'll talk about what Clue is in a moment, and we'll be working on creating some code or reports. Where we should start is just go to the game of Doom by ID Software. They've got a lot of code files that we can work through. We've got header and C files. We've got all the documentation that we created in the last video. We can use our little programming language to talk with this repo and write to this repo. So I think how we can start is with the little web server that we created the other day. So we'll just start that on a particular port, and we can test it with a curl command that's just giving some instructions and the location of the target folder. We'll just copy the path from the playground, and we're going to put in some code here. So let's just change that right there, and we'll create an instruction. And the instruction I think we should go with is create reader.js. It should read the column names, and the column names are going to come from this table of contents CSV that I've put together. And from there, we just want to print it out into a tabular report. So we'll just bring it all into one line, copy that, and we'll come over to this instruction and we'll paste it in here. And from this point, we should just be able to run it from the command line. So we'll make sure that we're on the right port, and we'll put everything onto one particular line, and from there we should just be able to copy it and paste it directly in here. Now the curl request doesn't really matter where it runs, it just needs to point at the web server and have a folder where it would like code to be written. So at the moment it's writing some code. We've got a yes, so we'll want to automate that in this particular video. We didn't automate it in the last one, and what should be happening is we've just had a file created. That's looking good. A quick node install, and we'll just put in some data. We'll put in 1, 2, 3, and we'll just run this reader and see what we get. And we are reading the file, so we've got a little bit of code running. So what I want to test now is just the gathering of files. So we've got the documentation for the Doom application here, and if we look at the Doom application, we've got H files, C files, we've got docs, and if we run a little GPT Context tool, which is what we're going to run the behind the scenes with the coding language, we should get a list of all the files. Now if we just run that one more time, and we'll just do say the H files, we should just get a list of the files that are headers. And we can take this a little bit further and just say we want the IPX folder and see what we get there. So we've just got 4 directories. So this is what we're hooking up to our DSL. When we were generating documentation for Doom, this was the technique we used. But instead of using tree format, we used the Aider format, and we would build up prompts basically on the same sort of files that we just saw listed there. But let's now move this into a coding language, which will be a lot easier to work with. Now to get started, we'll come over to our playground here. We'll go new file, and the file we'll go with is get docs, I think sounds good. We'll call it Clue. This will make sense a bit later. So we got this new file, and we'll just put in some sort of structure. So I'll go with taught to Aider for want of a better word. So next we'll go down to the terminal and we'll put in this command called langcraft, and I'm going to show you the video that this is related to, and we're just going to watch the folder that we're on and format for enhanced output. So what happens now when we come here and we hit save, we should get a new file created next to it. So we'll just move that down below, and we can see that whatever we put in here, if we say xmen and we say do and we say and we hit save, we'll get a new value called xmen. Now having a node called xmen is not very useful, but if we look at the Doom with dots folder, what we should be able to do instead is replace this with something called file collector, and with that we just list the actual folder we want to collect from. Now if we hit save on this, what should happen is we get that information coming through, plus it's figured out where there might be files to work with. So let's see if we can now populate this with a set of files. When we ran it from the command line, we did GPT Context. We had the folder that we wanted to work with, and we did the IPX directory star.h. What we'll do over here is we'll put in a files node and we'll say include, and it's going to work from the same folder as we have here. We'll just work with the C files, and for now let's do everything. So we get everything, and we get all the files that are in the IPX directory, we get all the files that are in the Doom directory. So if we come up here and we say IPX and we hit save, we should get a smaller set of files. So we've just got 3, and the good thing is we've also got the content of each of these files. Now just like the command line one, we can also do exclusions. So if we type in exclude, and let's just go IPX, and we'll just say Doom star and hit save, one of these files should just disappear for us. So we've got the IPX set up. And again, if we want to come out and get the MD files, and I might want to exclude the README files that have the lowercase read in front of them. So these 2 files that are just here should disappear when I hit save. Now you may be wondering, where did this bin langcraft come from? So a couple of months ago I did these videos on AI programming languages, building one. We've got one called Build Your Own Programming Language, where I work with the GPT Context Gathering to do that. There's also the 1000 file changes, which is where I'm working with Cursor AI and Git diff to do bulk updates. So check out those videos if you want to understand more how I'm going from coding language to data using this little watcher. The next thing I would like to do is take the information that we've got here and make it available to our Aider web server. If we go back and have a look at the terminal where we're running the Aider web server, we can see that it's running on a particular port. Now I'm just going to take a copy of that. And this will be useful because one of the parameters is a webhook URL that we can call. So if we restart this and we'll put in -u and we'll just paste that value in, and as it restarts, now when we hit save, it should pass it to an endpoint. Now that's probably not the endpoint we want. Let's just call it xmen for now. We're going to have to handle this incoming data in the Aider web server. So we'll come over to the Aider web server and we'll implement this xmen routine. So to start off with, we could have a look at the original code assistant, which is what we'll use Aider to do the work, but we're not quite ready for that. Instead, we'll just put in a stub, we'll call it xmen, and all it really needs to do is read the incoming data. So we'll hit save on that, and we'll head over to the terminal and we'll restart the server. It should get sent through to the xmen folder. One of the things that should happen along the way is this file should get updated. So what we'll do is we'll just clear that out for now, and we'll hit save, and let's see what happens. So it's been updated with data. It's come through to the xmen endpoint, and we can see that the information is coming in here. One of the things that you can notice is there's a clue type. It's called taught to Aider. So if we really wanted to change the nature of the programming language, we might want to call it AI pair coder, and this information could come through. We should see that coming in right here. Now I've made a few changes to the xmen routine. I want to bring it into alignment with the original code assistant, and it could take in an instruction, a list of files, directories, etc. Now the only thing that we're interested in right now are the files. So the files are being processed down here. As for an instruction, we'll just go with tell me something would be useful. And we'll get it to just print out some information in the console. So if we come down here, we've got the IPX MD files. If we hit save on that, we should get an update. And we can see the files to be processed are coming through. If we get rid of the IPX and go for the whole system, we should just get a lot more from multiple subfolders. Let's try and expand this XMen function so it has more in common with the code assistant. So currently it can take these various options in. This has only got a fixed instruction and it will collect the files. But we better go and update our little programming language, which is this one here on the left, but can support these concepts. We can just make this up, and I'm just going to call it rules for now. And within the rules, we might say that instruction, which we will have it mapped to something, is tell me something more. So just a slightly different value coming in on that. We could put in the model, but I won't do that for now. I will do the directory because I think that will be a useful concept for us to put in place. And I've just put in this value where we want to write code to. So this is where we're reading information from. Then we're sending it to Aider, and Aider is being given an instruction and the list of files that it needs to work with, and we have the directory we would like Aider to work into. Now if I hit save at the moment, what will happen is we will get an enhanced document that's now a little bit different. It's got rules in it, it's got the instruction, the directory, it's got the file collector, and if we look down lower, it's still got the files that have been processed are all going through to this endpoint. But the endpoint at the moment doesn't know how to handle these two parameters, so we just need to hook it up. So the code has been updated with a bunch of rules, and we'll just paste them in, and we can just restart the web server. These values should come through and get printed out. So it's a dry run, meaning we're not actually going to invoke Aider when we set this to true. There is an instruction that will just say whatever in here, and we can see that that's coming through. There would be the target folder or project that we'd like to write to, and then there's the list of files. Now I've also put in this model as default. We'll let Aider figure that out for itself, but we could override it if we want. And the confirm is basically the idea of should it automatically write files, yes or no. This will be the incoming path that we come in on. We'll start the Python server that's now running. Let's go and start the LangWatch, but let's make sure that the webhook that it talks to is this new value called clue, and we'll press enter on that. And we'll leave dry run turned on. So we've got an instruction coming through. We've got a directory which is not correct. We're on a dry run, which is great. Let's just change the dry run to false and see what happens, especially considering we don't have a good directory name. And it's reporting an error that no such file or directory exists, which is great. Now what I want to do is the first test. Now I don't think I've got the alignment quite correct with this, but let's talk through it. We're going to read from this folder here, which is the Doom with docs, and we're specifically looking at the IPX directory, the markdown documents. There's 3 of them going on here. Now if we go and hit save, we can see that the information should come through. But if we look at the JSON document, we can see the content for each of these 3 files. But this information isn't currently being used in Aider, only the file name is being used, and this could be a bit of an issue. What we'll also do, we've got dry run turned off, we've got update the tox CSV file, which is this file here, and we just need to change the directory. So we'll change it to this, and we'll hit save, and let's see what starts to happen. So it says it's creating 3 files. Now why is that? Because there's already 3 files that exist, and it's because when we set the target, which is here, this is in an area that doesn't have those files, so they're being created for us. And it's telling me to please provide the contents of the TOC file. So the first thing I think we need to do is bring it back to just one directory. So where we read from and where we write to probably need to be the same with the current state of the application. Reading from here, we're going to write into this project, and we're going to read from this project. So we got the reading okay, but the writing is not in the right location. So what we'll do is we'll change the folder that it's writing to. The other thing is that it will want access to the toc.csv, but we haven't included it in our files when we're talking. So let's just go include, and we'll say toc.csv, but I'm also going to take a copy of the one that we had in this project, and I'm just going to make it available within this project. We've got a bunch of information being changed. So we've had some partial success. We can see the name of the file coming through. We can see a description, but I can't quite tell whether it's a good description. What I've gone and done is create a cat and a fox markdown document. We'll see what happens there. Then in the prompt originally I talked about 25 words, and it's kind of put the 25 words here. I've just modified this instruction a little bit, see if we can get better data, and I might even just delete everything that's in here. Lastly, let's improve this so that we're also getting all the markdown documents and see what happens. Now it's a little bit better on the descriptions. It's also got some numbers that are looking closer, but they're not actually accurate. And then it's got this opinion about the cat, and then there's the story about a fox jumping over a lazy dog and then moving over the sleeping cat. So this all seems good. So if we make this a double asterisk, we should now be able to work through another 60 odd files. And so now it's working through all the different files that are in the Linux Doom directory. So at this point I hit a token limit. I've just gone and changed it to just the I_ files. And let's just bring in anything that starts with a P as well. Now you can see that we were able to read through all the markdown documents by just saying including ** markdown. We said update the table of contents CSV, and we've basically got a summary of each of the markdown documents. I made a couple of syntax changes by loading in, for instance, prompts that we might want to use from the file system. So there's a complex prompt that we're about to go through, and it's just being interpolated into a pre-prompt right here, along with folders being loaded in. I've also changed it from taught to Aider to just plain Aider, and it just required that the web server be modified to deal with this new node coming in. We have our Aider coding construct here, and it's going to read from the Doom documentation folder, which is here, but specifically it's only going to look in the IPX directory for the C files, and there's about 3 of them listed in this area. And after that we're going to do it as a dry run, so we'll only get data for now, where it has a prompt called create codefile.txt for each file based on a prompt, and the prompt is going to be read from a file, and we can see the information here. And this is basically turning C and header files into a format that's readable by a non-developer, so it's just a human readable context going on. And we've got a few other options. We can see information from the file here. We've got unions, compact memory representations here at the end of the prompt. We've got the folder that we're loading in from, and we can notice that the 3 C files have also been loaded along with their content. Finally, we can remove the dry run flag from the Aider as code script. It'll run the pre-prompt plus the complex prompt, which is going to turn all the C and header files into formats that are human readable. We're going to read from the Doom with dots folder, but specifically only get the IPX C files. So when we hit save on this, we end up getting code being generated by Aider for each of the C files. We've also updated the JSON document so we can see the individual files that are going to be worked with. We can even see the content that's going to be merged into the documentation. So the first file called ipxnet.txt can be created. So we'll say yes, and we'll say yes to doomnet and yes to ipxsetup.txt. And we can see the code getting generated to go into these files. The final output is 3 meta documents. We've got doomnet with the function launch doom and 3 global variables. And then we go on to IPX setup, where we've got check param and net ISR. So finally, we have our domain specific language called KlueLess, which is allowing us to talk to Aider via a scripting language where it can read files from various locations and call the Aider API using the web server that we built in the last video to generate code. This is just a proof of concept to talk to the Aider.AI pair programmer, but it's part of a broader set of semantically friendly coding languages that I'm exploring so that I can communicate with large language models in a more effective manner. So if this is a topic you're interested in, please like and subscribe. I'm Happy Dave. I'll see you in the next video.